Welcome to A Year of War and Peace. I'm your host, Brian E. Denton. A Year of War and Peace is a daily, year-long, chapter-by-chapter reading of and meditation on Leo Tolstoy's epic novel, War and Peace. In these videos and podcasts, you'll be treated to a free reading of one chapter per day of the novel, plus a reflective essay I've written individually tailored to that day's chapter. These readings are offered for free, though if you'd like to support me, you can do so in one of three ways. First, you could purchase my ebook, A Year of War and Peace. It features the entire novel, plus all of my reflective essays, and it's only $2.99 on Amazon.com. You could also become a patron at patreon.com/BrianEDenton. If you sign up there, you'll receive a sonnet once a month, plus a link to an ebook of my collected sonnets. Finally, if you like, you can make a one-time donation to my PayPal account. The email there is brianedenton@gmail.com. You can also use that email to contact me. I'd be happy to hear from you. Your support is greatly appreciated. Today's reading and reflection is on Chapter 88. Chapter 88. When Boris and Anna Pavlovna returned to the others, Prince Hippolyte had the ear of the company. Bending forward in his armchair, he said, "Le Roi de Prusse," and having said this, laughed. Everyone turned toward him. "Le Roi de Prusse?" Hippolyte said interrogatively, again laughing, and then calmly and seriously sat back in his chair. Anna Pavlovna waited for him to go on, but as he seemed quite decided to say no more, she began to tell of how at Potsdam the imperious Bonaparte had stolen the sword of Frederick the Great. "It is the sword of Frederick the Great which she began, but Hippolyte interrupted her with the words "Le Roi de Prusse," and again, as soon as all turned towards him, excused himself, and said no more. Anna Pavlovna frowned. Mortemart, Hippolyte's friend, addressed him firmly. "Come now, what about your Roi de Prusse?" Hippolyte laughed, as if ashamed of laughing. "Oh, it's nothing. I only wish to say—" He wanted to repeat a joke he had heard in Vienna, in which he had been trying all that evening to get in. "I only wish to say that we are wrong to fight for Le Roi de Prusse." Boris smiled circumspectly, so that it might be taken as ironical or appreciative according to the way the joke was received. Everybody laughed. "Your joke is too bad. It's witty but unjust," said Anna Pavlovna, shaking her little shriveled finger at him. "We are not fighting pour le Roi de Prusse, but for right principles. Oh, that wicked Prince Hippolyte," she said. The conversation did not flag all evening, and turned chiefly on the political news. It became particularly animated toward the end of the evening, when the rewards bestowed by the Emperor were mentioned. "You know N.N. received a snuff-box with a portrait last year," said the man of profound intellect. "Why shouldn't S.S. get the same distinction?" "Pardon me, a snuff-box with the Emperor's portrait is a reward, but not a distinction," said the diplomatist. "A gift, rather. There are precedents. I may mention Schwarzenberg." "It's impossible," replied another. "Will you bet? The ribbon of the order is a different matter." When everybody rose to go, Helene, who had spoken very little all the evening, again turned to Boris, asking him in a tone of caressing, significant command to come to her on Tuesday. "It's of great importance to me," she said, turning with a smile toward Anna Pavlovna, and Anna Pavlovna, with the same sad smile with which she spoke of her exalted patroness, supported Helene's wish. It seemed as if from some word Boris had spoken that evening about the Prussian army, Helene had suddenly found it necessary to see him. She seemed to promise to explain that necessity to him when he came by on Tuesday. But on Tuesday evening, having come to Helene's splendid salon, Boris received no clear explanation of why it had been necessary for him to come. There were other guests, and the Countess talked little to him, and only as he kissed her hand on taking leave said unexpectedly and in a whisper, with a strangely unsmiling face, "Come to dinner tomorrow, in the evening. You must come. Come." During that stay in Petersburg, Boris became an intimate in the Countess's house. All right, so that concludes my reading of Chapter 88. I'll now proceed to my reflection on the same. A Year of War and Peace, Day 88. Flattering Mirror of the Proud. Envy and its vicious cousin, ambition, have long been the subject of tragedy. Aeschylus's Oresteia, for example, was first produced at the city of Dionysia way back in 458 BC. In the first of the plays in that series, Aeschylus has one of history's most ambitious men, Agamemnon, proclaim, quote, "How rare men with character do praise a friend's success without a trace of envy. Poison to the heart, it deals a double blow. Your own losses weigh you down, but then look at your neighbor's fortune and you weep. Well, I understand society, the flattering mirror of the proud." End quote. While ambition is not the main theme of the Oresteia, it is Agamemnon's ambition to conquer Troy that provokes him to butcher his own daughter, Iphigenia. Clytemnestra, Agamemnon's wife and Iphigenia's mother, in return, butchers Agamemnon. Orestes, Agamemnon and Clytemnestra's son, then butchers Clytemnestra. It's butchery all around. Kind of an odd family tradition, but who are we to judge? The ravaging butcheries of ambition needn't be presented so gruesomely as they are in Aeschylus. They can be much more subtle and silently soul-crushing, as I suspect they are for Boris Drubetskoy in War and Peace. Boris, from the beginning, has been a relentless social climber. We can't fault him for this. We know that his family, while of good name, are of poor financial position. This inauthentic act he has to play in order to claw his way to the middle of Russian society does not, at first glance, appear to have harmed him in any way. Even Tolstoy, a blunt Christian moralist, if ever there was one, remains neutral in his presentation of Boris's clearly ambitious, maybe even avaricious character. But if we look beyond the surface of Boris's story, I think we can find the damaging nature of his ambition. In today's reading, to take one example, he must hold back his true thoughts about Hippolyte's Roy Proust joke. Instead of sharing his thoughts on the joke, Boris smiles circumspectly so that it might be taken as ironical or appreciative according to the way the joke was received. This isn't the first time, nor the last, we'll see Boris subjugate his true self in order to present this more politically correct, socially acceptable persona. Again, we can't be sure of the debilitating nature of this self-imposed inauthenticity because Tolstoy's development of Boris's character favors neither a negative nor a positive reading. But there must at least be some level of seething Boris experiences as a result of having to suppress his true feelings all the time. Then again, maybe he understands that it's just the price to pay for social advancement. We just don't know. What we do know is that by chapter's end, Boris has developed a relationship with Helene, and that hasn't worked out too well for any of our characters so far. Take your average Boris today. Imagine the envy he feels admiring the things and positions of his social superiors. Imagine the sacrifices of time, thought, and personal expression required to fuel the ambition necessary to obtain those things for himself. Is it worth it? At what cost? Daily meditation. When you see a man take up the robe of office, therefore, or hear his name bruited about in law courts, do not envy him. The price of these distinctions is life. Seneca, on the shortness of life. All right, so that concludes my reading and reflection of chapter 88. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you liked it. Remember that if you'd like to support me, you can do so either by purchasing the ebook, A Year of War and Peace, becoming a patron at patreon.com, or making a one-time donation to PayPal. The links to all that are below. Your support is greatly appreciated. Tomorrow we will be reading and reflecting on chapter 89. I hope you'll join me. Until then, take care of yourselves and others.